Science are separate. I don't think they should be taught in science, no.
I noted that I looked at the website of Waverley College. It has a slogan that says, "All your children will be taught by the Lord." What does that mean exactly?
Look, it may be that you've read more than I have, Tony, but look, at the end of the day, look, for example, I mean, my faith is personal. I don't think I've ever really come out and spoken about it. It's the media that have quizzed me more on it than I've actually gone out and actually spoken on it. In actual fact, I first met the Prime Minister when I was first elected, and it's funny, you know, he sat there, pulled out his Bible out of his top pocket and started to lecture me and give me a sermon. And I thought, that's interesting. I've never done that to anyone. And he's the Prime Minister. First meeting, never met the guy, pulls out his Bible. He's probably still got it in his top pocket, I think. But, look, it's not... I think it's very personal. And I think that, look, I've got my decision-making, my core decision-making team. I have a Jew and an atheist. I think you should be making policy on common sense and what is best for Australia. I don't think that, you know, Australians like the idea of having it driven by religion. And that is the truth, Tony. I've never raised the issue. It's very personal to me. I've never gone out and done what Kevin Rudd's done, meet someone for the first time, pull out the Bible and lecture them.
I'm going to interrupt you because once again we've got a web question on this subject. It's from David in Victoria. Do you believe intelligent design should be part of the science curriculum taught alongside evolution, or do you believe it is non-scientific and should be relegated to the rubbish bin? And while you're talking, Stephen Fielding, we'll go to you first.
What was the question? Sorry, Tony, I missed it.
The question was about whether intelligent design should be taught in the science curriculum.
Look, I actually think that kids are pretty smart, and I actually think that there's room potentially to be actually taught both. And allow the kids work it out. You know, I mean, I think they're pretty smart.
In the science room.
Not in the science room. I said before, Tony. So in the science room, I've told you before, and I'll say it again. Religion and science should be separated. I don't think there's room for that, and that's why I'm saying is that, you know, if parents are concerned, then maybe the school should teach both, but not in the science class. If you know what I mean, I think kids can work it out themselves with their parents. Themselves from there, but I don't think it should be in science at all. I make it quite clear, religion and science are two separate issues.
All right. Richard Dawkins, is that a compromise that you're comfortable with?
Well, I'd like to answer the previous question, which was, after all, put to me.
Yeah, of course you may.
Which was, do we think that religion should be taught in schools, not in science class? Of course it should not be taught in science class, but it certainly should be taught. Religion is a very important part of our culture. As Julie Bishop has said, it's a very important part of literature. She also said it's important for our morals. Like, goodness sake, I hope we don't get our morals from it.
No, I said it's a basis for Western morality and
well,
thought.
I very much hope it is not the basis for Western morality. And
it has been.
It is the basis for a lot of Western literature, and for that reason it's very important to teach it. You can't understand European history without being steeped in religion, because so many of the wars were about it. But there's another very good reason for teaching religion, comparative religion, which is that children will then learn that there are lots of different religions, and they're all incompatible, and they can't all be right. And so what is I think actually rather wicked is taking children who are too young to know and teaching them, you belong to this religion. You belong to, you're a Catholic or you're a Muslim or whatever it might be. That, I think, is wicked. What you should say is, there are people called Catholics and they believe this, there are people called Protestants, there are people called Muslims who believe that, people called Jews who believe the other. And that's important, that's worth teaching. Let children make up their minds when they're old enough. But don't tell children that they belong to this religion or that.
Jackie. Jackie, let's hear from you, and bear in mind that I think you heard Julie Bishop, former Education Minister, suggest the teaching of the Bible in schools might be a good idea. I mean, I suppose it depends whether we're talking about Old Testament or New Testament, from your point of view.
Yeah, I think that there are many religious beliefs, and I think it's really important, maybe for some of the reasons that Richard suggested, to be able to let people know the beliefs of various religious communities. And I think that it's really important in order to break down the misunderstanding and the prejudice and the division that happens between people, when instead of seeing actually the differences between religions, that teaching about them can actually find a lot of commonality as well, and a lot of places where we do agree and we do see things in the same way, but not just teaching religion. I think we should be teaching other moral bases of thought and other philosophy as well. And I think on the point of not telling your children what religion they are, I think we have an obligation as parents. We're raising our children, we're making decisions for them all the time, and I think this is...
Are you at all worried that in religious schools children get indoctrinated, which I think was one of the points Richard was making?
Well, I don't want to speak for all religious schools, but the ones I know, I don't feel they're indoctrinated. I think there's a very... Well, I don't know. The ones that I know, there's a very healthy spirit of questioning and a lot of opening for children to, you know, to question what's going on and to question belief and to ask and to not necessarily follow their parents. And you're right, if they come to an age and a time when they decide that that philosophy or that religion is not for them, then they're not going to remain part of it. But I think, you know, as a parent, I would want to be giving my child a firm foundation in my beliefs.
All right, let's hear what Patrick thinks about this. Teaching religion in schools, you comfortable with it? Are there limits? Where do you set them?
I thought you were going to let me off the hook, Tony.
No, we want to explore who you are.
Yes, yeah. Well, look, I very much agree with what Jackie and Richard have been saying about the value of teaching comparative religion. I've seen that in my own children. They went to a nominally religious school. It was of one particular denomination, but it was extremely liberal, and they certainly didn't teach any religion in science classes. They taught it in a comparative religion way. My youngest son learned a lot about Islam through that process and really noticed the common features actually with other major religions. So I thought that was really valuable for him to do that. But I certainly don't think intelligent design should be taught anywhere, really.
OK, you're watching Q&A, the live and interactive forum where you get to ask the questions. Next question comes from in the audience. It's from Hamza Qureshi.
My question is for Professor Dawkins. Considering that atheism cannot possibly have any sense of absolute morality, would it not then be an irrational leap of faith, which atheists themselves so harshly condemn, for an atheist to decide between right and wrong?
Absolute morality, the absolute morality that a religious person might profess would include what? Stoning people for adultery, death for apostasy, punishment for breaking the Sabbath. These are all things which are religiously based absolute moralities. I don't think I want an absolute morality. I think I want a morality that is thought out, reasoned, argued, discussed, and based upon, I could almost say, intelligent design. Can we not design our society which has the sort of morality, the sort of society that we want to live in? If you actually look at the moralities that are accepted among modern people, among 21st century people, we don't believe in slavery anymore. We believe in equality of women. We believe in being gentle. We believe in being kind to animals. These are all things which are entirely recent. They have very little basis in biblical or Quranic scripture. They are things that have developed over historical time through a consensus of reasoning, sober discussion, argument, legal theory, political and moral philosophy. These do not come from religion. To the extent that you can find the good bits in religious scriptures, you have to cherry pick. You search your way through the Bible or the Quran and you find the occasional verse that is an acceptable profession of morality. And you say, look at that, that's religion. And you leave out all the horrible bits. And you say, oh, we don't believe that anymore. We've grown out of that. Well, of course we've grown out of it. We've grown out of it because of secular moral philosophy and rational discussion.
Tony Bird.